Hi there. You're tuned in for another deep dive. And today we're doing something a little different.
Yeah, we're stepping away from, long articles for a moment.
Exactly. We're diving straight into a conversation, one that was actually designed to help people practice their English speaking.
Right. Our source is a YouTube video. It's from the Speak English Smartly channel.
Uh-huh. The title is English Speaking Challenge, Test Your Skills Podcast for Improving English Podcast. Quite a mouthful.
It is. But what's interesting, as you said, is how it's set up.
Yeah, the hosts in the video, Julia and Simon, they ask questions.
And then they leave a pause,
Yeah.
right, for the viewer to think of their own answer.
Precisely. So we thought, let's use those questions as kind of our starting point.
Yeah, dig into the topics they cover, the ideas that come up in their answers.
So you should get ready to explore some, really interesting bits about everyday life, different viewpoints.
Okay, so where do we start? Free time.
Let's do it. How Julia and Simon spend their free time. Simon mentioned a mix, reading, listening to music.
Pretty common ways to unwind, I think. A lot of people can relate to that.
Totally. But then he also mentioned like walks or jogs, if the weather's good.
Right, adding that physical element. So it's not just mental relaxation, but physical activity, too.
Yeah.
Different needs, different times.
And then the one that caught my ear, trying new recipes.
Ah, yes. That's interesting. It suggests maybe a bit of creativity, experimentation.
Yeah, like a mindful kind of creating something. It's quite active, really.
Unlike maybe just passively consuming media. And Julia, her free time sounds pretty full, too.
It does. She's exploring painting right now as a hobby. Says it's relaxing, an outlet.
Creative expression again.
And she also volunteers at an animal shelter.
Oh, that's wonderful. So there's a balance there, isn't there? Personal creativity and giving back, helping others.
Yeah, exactly. That's solitary painting versus the community connection of volunteering.
It really makes you pause and think, what about your own free time? What kind of balance are you looking for? Is it mostly personal stuff or contributing or maybe a mix?
That's a really good question for you listening. Okay, next topic. Dream travel destinations. Always fun.
Definitely sparks the imagination.
So Julia's dream is Japan. And I get that. I really do.
What did she say drew her to it?
Well, she talked about the mix, the contrast between ancient traditions and super modern life.
Right, Tokyo's energy versus Kyoto's temples.
Exactly. Wandering the streets, exploring temples. Oh, and she mentioned wanting to try making sushi.
Okay, so it's not just sightseeing. It's like active participation, experiencing the culture hands-on. That's interesting.
It really is. It suggests someone who wants maybe diverse experiences and wants to get involved.
Yeah, definitely. And Simon, where do you want to go?
Simon's dreaming of Italy, specifically Florence.
Ah, Florence. The Renaissance city. Makes sense.
To him, it's all about the art, the history, and, well, the food, obviously.
Of course. Can't forget Italian food. Did he mention specifics?
He did. The Uffizi Gallery, wandering through local markets, getting some proper gelato.
Sounds amazing. A real feast for the senses, visually, historically, culinarily.
And he also saw it as a chance to, improve his Italian.
Again, that desire for deeper immersion, not just being a tourist. It points to someone who values, history, beauty, maybe sensory pleasure, and learning.
So for you listening, what's your dream spot and why? Is it the views, the history, the vibe, the food, something else entirely?
Good question. Okay, what else did they cover? Technology, right?
Yep, technology in daily life. And, it's everywhere, isn't it? That was clear from their chat.
Totally unavoidable these days.
Simon talked about using his phone for, well, basically everything. Managing his schedule, staying connected.
Standard phone stuff.
Right. And his laptop for work, research, but also for leisure, streaming shows, reading.
It's like tech forms the backbone of so much of what we do. Work, social life, downtime.
Yeah, it's this invisible infrastructure almost. Julia mentions similar things using her phone for news, language learning apps.
Practical uses.
But they also touched on how it's really changed work and study massively.
Oh, absolutely. Think about taking notes now compared to, say, 20 years ago.
Or just accessing information. It's instant. Online collaboration, too.
Virtual classes, applying for things online, endless resources. It's transformed learning.
It really has. The opportunities are huge.
But it does make you think. With tech being so, present, how do you manage it? How do you make sure it's still a tool that serves you and you're not, serving it something for you to consider?
Definitely something to think about. Okay, Next up was the importance of traveling.
Ah, yes, and they went a bit deeper than just seeing the sights.
They really did. They talked about how travel, genuinely exposes you to different cultures
Meeting new people, seeing different ways of life.
and how that actually broadens your perspective on, well, everything.
Yeah, it's about growth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. It forces you to adapt, maybe question your own assumptions.
It's a kind of learning you just can't get from a book or a classroom. It's experiential.
Hmm. They mentioned how it builds open-mindedness and adaptability. Super important skills today.
That firsthand experience,
Hmm.
it just hits different, doesn't it? It sticks with you.
So think about a trip you took, maybe somewhere really different. What surprised you the most? Not just about the place, but maybe about yourself?
Good prompt. Okay, what was next? The big one.
The big one, can money buy happiness?
Ah, the age-old question. What was Julia's take?
She was quite nuanced, actually. Said money provides, comfort, security. It reduces stress, which helps.
Sure, meeting basic needs, having options that contributes to well-being, takes away worries.
But she felt it wasn't the actual key to true happiness.
That makes sense. Happiness often seems tied to other things, right? Relationships, personal growth, feeling fulfilled.
Exactly. And Simon added something interesting. He observed that sometimes people with less money seem genuinely happier than some people who have loads.
Hmm. Yeah, you do see that sometimes. It really underlines how subjective happiness is.
Totally. What makes one person happy might do nothing for someone else.
So it pushes you back to think about your own values. What does a happy, fulfilling life actually look like for you, beyond just the bank balance?
A deep question, for sure. All right, moving to something a bit more personal for them. Skills they wanted to learn.
Ooh, I like this one. What did Simon want to learn?
He wants to learn guitar.
Nice.
And his reasons were really warm. He talked about how music connects people
Yeah, it does. It's a universal language.
and expressing emotions through it, or just like the fun of playing around a campfire with friends.
It's about connection, sharing, creating something together. Lovely.
And Julia, what was her skill aspiration?
Julia wants to get really good at complex cooking.
Ah, interesting. Another creative skill.
Very much so. She talked about the satisfaction of making something delicious from scratch.
And again, the connection aspect, how food brings people together,
Yeah.
especially family gatherings.
It's like an act of care, isn't it? Preparing and sharing food. It's fundamental.
Definitely. So what about you listening? Is there a skill you've always wanted to pick up? And what's the reason behind that desire? What does it say about you?
Hmm. Okay, nearly there. How do they relax after a busy day?
Right? Unwinding strategies. Simon's go-to is reading a good book with some herbal tea.
Classic. Quiet, calm escapism.
Pretty much. Needs that mental break, maybe retreating into a story.
Makes sense. And Julia.
Julia has a couple of methods. Sometimes it's watching movies or TV, just switching off, passive relaxation.
Yeah, just letting your brain idle for a bit.
But she also finds going for walks really helps. Clears her head, helps her recharge by connecting with her surroundings.
So different approaches. One, quiet and internal. The other, more active and external. But both achieving that reset.
Shows there's no one right way, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about finding what works for you personally. What are your own favorite ways to unwind and just, de-stress?
Good thing to know about yourself. Okay, finally, they shared the best piece of advice they'd ever received.
Always an interesting question. What was Simon's?
Simon's was quite profound, I thought. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
Isn't it? It really makes you stop and think.
It's such a strong message about resilience, right? Not just passively waiting for bad times to end.
But actively engaging with challenges, finding joy, or at least learning, even when things are tough.
Yeah, finding your own agency within the situation. It's about perspective.
Embracing the moment, looking for the silver linings maybe, learning from it all, seeing challenges as, well, chances to grow.
It suggests that life will have storms. That's inevitable. The key is how you choose to navigate them, cultivating that inner strength.
So what about you? What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And how has it actually shaped things for you?
Worth reflecting on.
So there we have it. We started with a conversation about practicing English.
And ended up covering quite a lot of ground. Hobbies, travel, tech, happiness, skills, relaxation, life advice.
It's amazing how exploring these everyday topics can actually lead to some pretty deep insights, don't you think?
It really is. It shows how much our daily choices and thoughts reflect our deeper values and views on life.
Absolutely. And it makes you think even just practicing a language, talking about these things can open doors to thinking about really big questions
Yeah,
about life, happiness, growth.
definitely.
So maybe think about which part of this chat resonated most with you today. Was it a specific topic or maybe a piece of advice?
And perhaps ask yourself why it resonated. Often that's where the most interesting self-discoveries happen.
Exactly. What insight will you take away from our deep dive today?